Welcome to the screencast on subtracting integers. In this video, I'm going to play on my strengths. That is, I'm really good at adding, so I'm going to use adding to subtract. Here's what I mean. Let's take an example, some small numbers, 5 minus 2. I'm going to take these pieces that I was using in my addition video, and thinking of subtraction as sort of as taking away, I'm going to take away 2 from 5, which is going to leave me with 3 objects. What I want to show, if I want to play on my strengths of adding, I want to show that taking away 2 would be the same as adding in negative 2. So what I'm trying to show is that 5 minus 2 is mathematically equivalent as 5 plus negative 2. And if we remember our 0 pairs, 1 yellow, 1 red is 0, 1 yellow, 1 red is 0, so I'm left with positive 3. So far so good, that seems to be working. You might ask, why would I go ahead and complicate a simple problem like 5 minus negative 2? Well, let's take a problem that looks kind of scary mathematically, like negative 6 minus negative 1. That's kind of crazy looking. If we think about our integer pieces, here are 6 negatives. So I'm starting with negative 6, and if I take away one of the negatives, I'm left with 5 negatives. So the result must be negative 5. And that actually is a really easy subtraction problem to model with these chips, but I'm trying to show that instead of taking away one of the negatives, I could do the sort of opposite of that, which is adding in a positive. So I'm trying to show that negative 6 plus positive 1 should get me the same result. If I remember that these two make a 0 pair, take out the 0, and I'm left with 5 negatives. So mathematically they are equivalent. Now again, that was an easier problem to show just using takeaway. So again, why bother complicating things with this expression? Let's take a number or a problem that's a little bit harder to model with these pieces. I'm going to look at 3 minus 4. Not the hardest problem I've ever solved, but using this model it gets weird because here are my 3 positives. The problem's telling me to take away 4 positives. Well, I don't have 4 positives to take away. So if I use my model of adding, the opposite of what I subtracted, so instead of taking away 4 positives, if I put in 4 negatives, I'm making the argument that that should be mathematically equivalent. And if we take our 0 pairs out of the mix, I'm left with 1 negative, which is exactly what we should get. If I took away 1 more than I had, I would go into the negatives by 1. Let's do this with a couple more examples. Let's take negative 2 minus 1. I'm arguing that mathematically that should be the same as negative 2. Instead of taking away 1 positive, which I don't even have, I'm saying that I should be able to add in a negative. So I'm saying that's the same as negative 2 plus negative 1, and the result there is negative 3. Let's do one more example. I'm going to take 4 minus negative 2. So in my takeaway model, I should start with 4 positives. From there, I should take away 2 negatives. I don't have 2 negatives to take away, but I'm making the argument that I could add in the opposite of whatever I was supposed to take away, which means I could add in 2 positives. So mathematically, this is equivalent to 4 plus positive 2, which is 6 positives. Finally, let's take a look at some problems where the numbers are so small or so big that it would be inconvenient to use those yellow and red pieces. Let's take a problem like negative 200 minus 41. Instead of taking away positive 41, I want to add in negative 41 and play on my strengths of adding. I know that 200 negatives and 41 negatives should make a total of negative 241. All right, another big example, or small example, 37 minus negative 54. So we're starting with a big number, taking away a really small number. Mathematically, taking away negative 54 should be the same as adding the opposite of negative 54, which is positive 54. Oh, and look, now I'm just adding 2 positive numbers. I can do that. Pretty sure that's 91. I'll let you check that. And we'll do one more example, 67 minus 105. Instead of taking away 105 positives, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 105 negatives. Let me think about this. 67, 3 more would get me 70. That means 33 more would get me 100, which means 38 more would get me 105. So there are 38 more negatives than positives, which means that this result is negative 38. This has been my screencast on subtracting integers. Thanks for watching.